Jordan Fahle from the Filecoin Foundation. She's going to tell you a bit about how the Filecoin Foundation's decentralized storage infrastructure is already solving some of the big problems plaguing journalism. Jordan, you want to grab a mic and take it away?
Hi. It's wonderful to be here with you guys this morning. I'm Jordan Fahle, Deputy Head of Communications and Marketing at the Filecoin Foundation. And today I've got 10-15 minutes, and we're going to dive into how media organizations, journalists, and researchers are using decentralized storage right now in the real world to preserve their work. But first, I'm going to briefly touch on some of the challenges of preserving digital content, how decentralized storage can play a role, and then we're going to get into the fun stuff, which is the use cases. And maybe I'll move to the side so you can see my slides. Then, do I just tell you when to click through? Is that how it works? Good. Okay. I'm sure everyone in this room knows this sentiment, but throughout human history, preserving our culture and collective memory is just essential for passing this information down to generations. We can still read newspapers from the 1920s and 1940s. Medieval manuscripts have survived for decades on decades, and even cave paintings are, some of humanity's earliest efforts to communicate what was happening in their world down to the next generation. But in this current world, as you all know, culture and media is becoming increasingly digital. And at the Filecoin Foundation, we think that means that it's also becoming increasingly vulnerable. Stories are how we document our culture, it's how we challenge power, and it's how we preserve truth. And in this day and age, we really feel that we're in a moment, in an inflection point, where we need to think about how we preserve what is happening in the digital world for the long term. So let's dive into these not so fun stats. The median lifespan of a web page now is just 2.3 years, which is basically, most people go to college for longer than this. From Pew Research, if you're looking for a web page from 2013, there's almost a 40% chance that it's gone, no longer available. And then even, you're seeing this in journalism as well. There was a research study that went into links in the New York Times, and almost 25% of them are dead. And I know several folks in this room too have also experienced moments where your work is lost, gone forever, because of platform failures, technological failures. And this is the fundamental problem. When things are stored on centralized servers, there are single points of failure. So that means one corporate decision, one cyber attack, one server failure, and decades of work can be lost in a moment. And I think, when I was younger and Facebook was the new thing, everyone was like, what is on the web is there forever. And I think we're really reaching a moment where we know that this is not true anymore. So, I think we can go to the next slide. Yeah, and these are just examples of how this is happening. 538 was a really prominent political site run by Nate Silver. It was bought by ABC News, and then a handful of years later, it was shuttered. All the archives are no longer on ABC. MTV last year news shut down. Almost 2 decades of musical journalism was just wiped off the internet. And then Kara Swisher, renowned tech journalist, this is one of her, she lost all of her work at All Things Digital, which included really prominent interviews with Mark Andreessen and Mark Zuckerberg. And these things just don't exist anymore, even though I believe she had a contract with them that they would maintain it and keep it. But it's all gone. Can go to the next one, good. Oh. Okay, so now I'm going to chat a little bit about where Filecoin comes into this picture. Anyone familiar with Filecoin? Cool, a handful of folks, that's great. Well, Filecoin is the world's largest decentralized storage network, and we're fundamentally changing how we preserve digital content. And so instead of storing data in one location. It's stored on a globally distributed network. The underlying technology for this is the InterPlanetary File System, IPFS. And how this works, instead of storing content by where it is, like a HTTPS link, it is stored by what it is, which is by a CID. And CIDs are pretty cool. It's a cryptographic hash of the content, which means that once a CID is created, if the content is changed, you get a new CID. So also when this data is stored, you know that it's unaltered and not tampered with, because if it's changed, the CID changes. And so for journalists and for media, this means two things. One, if the original publisher disappears on the Filecoin network, it doesn't matter. If one node goes down, the data is still available. So that's great. And then the other thing is that you just have cryptographic proof that your data has not been changed or altered over time. Okay, great. And next, I'm going to get to the fun stuff. And, also let me know if I'm going too long. So these are, I work for Filecoin Foundation. We also have a sister nonprofit called Filecoin Foundation for the Decentralized Web. This is kind of a mix of projects from both that are really using Filecoin in the real world and integrating decentralized storage, and that is what I'm going to chat through next. The first one is the Defiant. The Defiant is a Web3 publication, and we have actually partnered with them recently, and they are backing up all of their archives and future content on Filecoin. So basically, this means if anything happens to their site, if there is a reorganization, if there's a technical failure, they have a copy of all of this journalism on the decentralized web. This way? And we have that nice little preserved on Filecoin button, so everyone knows it's on Filecoin. Next, we've got up MuckRock. Any folks here familiar with MuckRock? Cool. Okay, MuckRock is a really wonderful organization. They work with a lot of FOIA requests and an effort to make like public records accessible and linkable. And so I think probably every one of us has gone to a link on the internet where you click on the link to go follow the research or the page and it's dead. And I think for a normal person, this is probably an annoyance. But when you're talking about media and journalism, this really having this go to like the Panama Papers or some court case, this is part of the authenticity, the integrity of the reporting, and being able to verify like where these things came from. So MuckRock, they acquired DocumentCloud a long time ago, but this is basically a repository of different public documents that people might want to link to or use in their reporting. And they have started the process of backing up all this information to IPFS and Filecoin. And hopefully nothing happens to MuckRock. But now all these documents are also preserved on IPFS and Filecoin. And so in our mind, this makes them a lot more resilient. Cool. Great. The next one is Starling Lab. And Starling Lab is a research institute out of Stanford and USC Shoah Foundation. And they do a lot of work around helping us just trust what we see online. And they've done a lot of work with journalism. This example specifically is called the DJ and the War Crime. They work with a reporter with Rolling Stone who was doing an investigative report into war crimes that occurred during the Bosnian War. And there was, as you might imagine, thousands of documents, pictures, public documents going into Facebook records, and they're compiling all of this as evidence of war crimes that happened during this time and people that weren't held accountable. And so they partnered with Starling Lab, and what Starling Lab did is create one of the first cryptographic archives where all this evidence, all this documentation about this investigation is stored. It is stored on Filecoin and IPFS, but I think in total there's like 10 different cryptographic proofs backing it up. So one, that makes sure that this evidence, this documentation of what happened in this investigation is more resilient. It's safe against technological failures, censorship, but also there's the proof that it's unaltered and hasn't been tampered with. Great. This is another one by Numbers Protocol and Starling Lab, and this is a really interesting one to me because it touches on misinformation. We all know, I mean, if you're scrolling X or your social media platform of choice lately, I think we've all seen things and we're like, is this real? Is it not real? Especially in the age of AI. There's just an incredible amount of information out there, and we don't have a way to verify if it's real or fake. And so Numbers Protocol was thinking about this, and I think the most high-stakes situations are when we're thinking about elections. And if the information that we're seeing online is real, is it doctored? Numbers Protocol started to address this. Leading up to the Taiwan election in 2024, they partnered with local media outlets in Taiwan. And what they did is they equipped people with the equipment and the technology when they were going out and taking photos of what was happening, of candidates leading up to the election. They were able to document all the photographs, put the metadata on them, store them on Filecoin. So basically you have a chain of custody that shows that these photos have not been altered or tampered with. And so they partnered with local media outlets leading up to the election, and I think this is just it's a starting point for technology that can help us trust and verify that what we see online is real. Great. And then we've got Guardian Project. Guardian Project, they have an app called Proof Mode, and you can download it on your phone. But basically, it allows you to take photographs. It captures all the metadata, more so than like an iPhone would do, and it automatically backs this up to like third-party, gives it third-party validation that it hasn't been changed or altered. That includes Filecoin and IPFS. They've done some really cool pilot projects. And one of them was, this is in Hurricane Otis. But they went down to Mexico, and they were able to document the damage. Why would they want to do that? Well, I mean, this is really important for people to get money back for insurances, to make claims, to basically say the damage is what we say it is. And so this is one way they're using it, but I mean, Proof Mode is a really, I think, powerful tool for a lot of what they call human rights defenders. Or citizen journalists, for people who aren't necessarily like media or journalists. They're kind of on the ground in these situations and things are happening. I mean, potentially even content creators. I know we were talking about there being a lot of content creators out in LA, but it is a way that you can prove the videos or photos you took are real and unaltered, which I think is becoming just increasingly important in our online world. And lastly, a few people got a preview of this last night, but one of the companies in the Filecoin ecosystem, Sriracha, just partnered with Blue Sky. And so basically, you can go to Blue Sky Storage, you can download your entire Blue Sky archive. Any Blue Sky users here? Yes? Yes. And so I think this is, it's really important and kind of a first step in having like portable user-owned data where you can actually take it from a platform, own it, and use it any way that you want. Great. And that's all I've got, but you know, we're seeing a lot of different use cases where Filecoin is being applied in the media journalism space, and we're just excited to support the work that media and journalism are doing. We think it's really important, and really important that all these things, these works, these videos that you put time and energy to aren't just gonna disappear and kind of like erase our collective memory and cultural history. And this is really what the Filecoin Foundation is trying to support, the infrastructure that can preserve humanity's most important information. That's what I've got. Thank you.